What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast, and this is the total takedown for UFC 274. What a week! This thing is flying by, content out the wazoo, doing shows left and right. We're running a giveaway for tickets right now over on my Twitter. So yes, if you're seeing this the day of upload, Thursday 5/5, I am giving away 2 UFC tickets to UFC 274. Make sure you go check out my Twitter for the rules of that contest. If you're seeing this on Friday or Saturday, unfortunately, that contest is probably already set sail, so you've missed out at that point. Make sure you follow me for all the goods. Let's talk about totals. We're going overs. We're going unders. We're going to run through the card real quick and see if we can't find any soft spots for your betting pleasure this weekend. First fight of the night, Journey Newsome taking on Fernie Garcia. Lines, as always, are brought to you by Super Book Sports. Total set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 160. The under 2.5 is plus 140. This is a spot where I like the Contender Series fade angle. Fernie Garcia seems to be the goods coming off the Contender Series. He's taking on Journey Newsome, a guy who is small, who's going to be quick, who's going to be fast, who's had a little bit of a rough run in the UFC so far. His record shows 0-2-1, but technically he's 1-1-1, or yeah, something like that. 1-2, because his win got overturned to a no contest. He's going to have a speed advantage here in this spot. Fernie Garcia is probably going to have a size advantage, but I kind of like what Journey Newsome shows as far as his ability to cut off the cage, you get in and out quick, get to work with his hands. Garcia uses big looping shots. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a little bit of value here on the under. We have seen Journey Newsome finished in the UFC before. Granted, much more high caliber opponent, so Garcia may not be able to finish Newsome in that manner, but Newsome also could give Garcia the rude welcome to the UFC that we see so often from these Dana White Contender Series fighters. It's probably under or pass for me. Second fight up, Lupita Godinez taking on Ariane Carnelossi. Ladies MMA here, over 2.5 is minus 250. The under 2.5 is plus 220. I don't see a finish in this spot, just plain and simple. Both these women are incredibly tough, incredibly durable. Carnelossi does have that car crash type of offense. She's able to wing those big power bombs and knock people out. But Godinez has been chin checked. She's been hit before, and she's come out on the other side of it just fine. So I don't really expect that to be the case. I see a lot of movement and footwork for Lupita. I see a lot of grappling. Obviously, women's MMA, we see the armbar from guard. There's subs every once in a while, but I'm more than likely thinking this is going over. Clidson Rodriguez, my tongue is tied right now apparently. Clidson Rodriguez is taking on CJ Vergara in our next fight here. Total once again set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 125. The under 2.5 is plus 105. And again, this is a spot where like my gut tells me violence, but I can understand why it's juiced to the over. CJ Vergara is so hard to finish. We saw in his UFC debut against Ode Osborne, he took a lot of big power shots and just kept coming forward. He is more than willing to step into the fire to get it done if he needs to. Clidson Rodriguez is a fighter that a lot of people are really excited about. He's only got the one loss on his record. He's long, he's powerful, he's got some big kicks. This is the type of fight that sets up where if Rodriguez is able to stay at range, maybe he does land a big head kick or a body kick that puts Vergara down. But if Vergara is able to crowd the kicker, get in close, get in his face, use his boxing, then he has been a finisher more often than not. I think that we could see CJ Vergara landing some heavy hands, and this thing could go under either way. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling violence in this spot. Under 1.5. No bet at this point in time, but that's the lean for me. Tracy Cortez taking on Melissa Gatto coming up next. Total set at 2.5. Over is minus 205. Under is plus 180. And I really only see a finish coming from the Gatto side here. Tracy Cortez working with Henry Cejudo out there at Fight Ready. Obviously misses Brian Ortega, so maybe her grappling and jiu-jitsu chops are getting that much better. But is she really submitting Gatto? I don't see her submitting Gatto. Gatto is big. She is going to have a massive striking advantage. So unless Cortez has made some big improvements, I don't expect her to be the one getting the better of these exchanges on the feet. I think Gatto is clearing away the better striker, and then when they're on the ground, Cortez has the wrestling advantage, but I still think Gatto's got better jiu-jitsu. I think Gatto finishes or Cortez by decision. Those are kind of the two options. Now, obviously, Gatto could win a decision in some universes if it's mostly standing, if she can defend the takedowns. But more often than not, I think those are the best two paths to victory. So kind of pick your poison on that one, guys. I'm in the Gatto side of things. I do think she eventually works on Cortez in some form or fashion. I do think she ends up getting the finish at some point. So I'll say under, but y'all know the rules of my criteria. Both fighters need to contribute to me cashing an under. We don't have that here, so definitely not going to be playing the total here in this spot. Andre Fialho taking on Cameron VanCamp. Total set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is -130. Under 1.5 is +110. And I'm a little surprised that we're getting plus money on the under here. We all just saw what Andre Fialho was able to do against a much higher caliber UFC level fighter in his last opponent. Got him out of there early, and he's just getting better. Fialho's got big, nasty power. He forces a brawl. He cuts the cage off well, and he hits hard. VanCamp is a guy who likes to catch people coming in on sloppy takedowns. He snatches necks and takes them home. But if he's not grappling, he is more than willing to engage on the feet. We've seen that time and time again. I think that VanCamp is in for a short night. I honestly think that Andre Fialho can put this guy out without much of a problem. And the 1.5 being plus money, I like that a lot. I'd be very tempted in actually adding that to my betting card this weekend. If VanCamp's going to win this fight, Fialho's been a guy that's been relatively durable. He's really only got taken out by quality opponents deeper in fights, but you can never count out getting your neck caught. I don't care how many punches to the face you can take. If somebody gets under your chin, that's it. That's a wrap. So I think the under 1.5 has some value here. Next up, we got Blagoy Ivanov taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Total set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is +110. The under 2.5 -130. And again, I agree with violence. I think this is a good spot for some serious violence. Blagoy Ivanov has a massive grappling advantage in this spot. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, the busier, more active striker. However, he's got a bit of a gas tank issue, and we have seen Blagoy take advantage of that in some cases. So I think this could be like a slow first round, but whoever ends up getting going about halfway through that first probably finishes in the second, because either Marcos Rogerio de Lima gasses in this fight, and then Blagoy takes over and ends up hurting him or getting him on the mat and submitting him, or if Marcos is in the driver's seat this entire time. I know Blagoy is tough. I know Blagoy is a guy that is super hard to finish, but he doesn't check leg kicks very well, and De Lima really chops at the leg kicks. I could see De Lima getting him out of there. So again, I would probably look violence here. Not my favorite spot, but definitely a lean to the under. Brandon Royval taking on Matt Danger Schnell. Total set at 2.5 here. Over 2.5 is +130. Under 2.5 -150. And I get it. Like my guy Raw Dog, he forces brawls. That's what he does. He gets into the fire. He makes you fight. We have seen Matt Schnell in that situation, and he's got some big power in his hands. He's the more technical striker of the two. He could easily knock out Brandon Royval, but if he doesn't get that KO punch, he wilts. He wilts under the pressure. We've seen it time and time again. I think Royval forces this into a gunfight. I do think Royval ends up coming out on top in this thing, but Matt Schnell is a guy that's skilled enough and hits hard enough that we can't really count him out. So violence sounds good to me. Let's go under 2.5 at -150. Next up, Macy Chiasson taking on Norma Dumont. Total again set at 2.5. The over is -230. The under is +200. Chiasson moving up to 145. She's been posting a lot on our Instagram about that transformation, taking it seriously. Lots of weight training, putting on muscle. I think that's going to be good for her. Norma Dumont's one loss was via first round KO in the UFC on her debut. So interesting spot here to me, because Norma Dumont has kind of a grinding, slow, gritty grappler style, and we just saw that break Macy Chiasson in her last fight. So Macy's going to need to come out here, push that pace, and I think if she starts getting off on the feet, there's a chance that she can clip Norma. Norma has shown a couple chinks in the armor, but if Norma controls the pace, it's flying over. So this is definitely binary. Pick your fighter. Over is Norma, under is Macy. I guess there's a slight chance that Norma Dumont could get a finish in this spot if she decides to take this thing to the ground, but more often than not, she's body locking and pressing up against the fence, not necessarily shooting doubles or overwhelming her opponent on the mat. So I do tend to think that it's more over than under if you're going on the Norma Dumont side. I got a weird feeling on this one, guys. I talked about it earlier in the week. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like Macy Chiasson lands a crazy knockout that nobody really sees coming. I have no statistical evidence for that. There's no reason for me to think that whatsoever. Just the hairs on the back of my neck telling me it's going under. So under 2.5 +200. I guess that's the way I'll say this thing goes. Danny Roberts taking on Francisco Trinaldo coming up next here. Over 2.5 is -170. Under 2.5 is +150. What a total to talk about here. Trinaldo, the ageless wonder, is a guy that just keeps on doing the damn thing. His durability is slowly getting chipped away every single fight. We see him get rocked and wobbled and hurt, but he never quite goes out. Danny Roberts, a guy that's had some chin issues himself, going to be the much bigger fighter here, 9 years younger. I do think he's got the advantage here in this fight because of those things, but we have seen Francisco Trinaldo absolutely flatline people with that power before, so can't really count him out. I think that once again there is opportunity for violence, but every time I say that with Francisco, he just grinds out a decision and proves me wrong. So I guess I'm going to go the flip side on this one. I'll say over 2.5 at -170. No confidence in that whatsoever. Next fight up, Randy Brown taking on Khaos Kalen Williams. Total again set at 2.5. The over is plus money, +110. The under 2.5 is -130, and that makes some sense to me. Randy Brown is a guy who... he's got good footwork. He's got that length. He's got that reach. He likes the low calf kick. He stays on the outside. He's got good grappling. Khaos, plodding, walks forward, chops at the legs. And he's a guy that has that death touch. So at any point in time, Khaos Williams can close the show. I think that Randy Brown is going to have to mind his P's and Q's, stay on the outside, keep the distance. And when he does that, he avoids the power of Khaos Williams. And if he can avoid the power of Khaos Williams, he probably wins some kind of a decision here in this spot. I think that is a very high probability of taking place. Khaos Williams, though, is a guy that I never want to step in front of, and like I said, he can finish the fight at literally any point. It just takes one from him. So bet with caution. I'm going to say over in this spot, but I'm not ready to, pull out the mortgage and lay it on there because Khaos can take it at any point in time. Donald Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon up next here. Total set at 2.5. The over is +160, the under is -180, and this is the one total that I jumped on super early. I got under 2.5 at -155. I was all over this spot. In a recent interview, Joe Lauzon talked about how he understands the assignment here. He knows that Donald Cerrone is a bit of a slow starter. Both these guys have taken damage. Both these guys are getting older, so neither of them can really take the kitchen sink. Joe Lauzon thinks that whoever lands first is going to be the winner, and it's going to be a short night. So that's the kind of quote that I like to hear when I'm looking at betting on guys like this. Joe Lauzon is going to come out hard and heavy trying to get Cerrone out of there fast, and if he doesn't get the job done, if he slows down, tires out, then Donald Cerrone has a sitting duck in front of him and should be able to get it done himself. So, yeah, I like violence. Next up, OSP taking on Maurício Shogun, who a battle of the legend and then the other guy. Total set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is -150. Under 1.5 is +130. I hate this fight. I hate this fight so much. Maurício Shogun is a guy that likes to wade forward, big winging bombs, and then he likes to level change, use his grappling, get on top. Bad gas tank. He's old. He's busted. He's a legend, so all due respect, but he shouldn't be in there very much longer. OSP is a guy that I have routinely looked to be on the other side of because he quits. He takes his ball and he goes home. If you put this guy in deep waters, if you get him a little bit tired, if you punch him in the mouth, he just kind of folds up at this stage of his career. The OSP that was choking people out left and right, the guy that KO'd Hua in the last fight, he's long gone. He's not around anymore. So the only way I can look is fading Ovince Preux here, and this could turn into like a really sloppy fight at this point. I think it's going to go under, but the 1.5 concerns me a little bit. I do think this is probably a round 2 finish. I think both these guys will be able to survive round 1, but whoever is able to dig deeper and has better gas in the second round of this fight is going to be the one that takes over and gets the win. It's that 1.5 that scares me. I guess I'm going to say under because, if I think it's going to happen in the second round, I might as well bet under instead of betting over, just because I think one of these guys will end up folding over the other one. Whoever lands that hardest shot early in round 2 is probably going to take over and get the win. Mike Chandler taking on Tony Ferguson. Another spot that I really like. Total set at 1.5, and I'm going over, baby. I locked this one in earlier. Over 1.5 is -155, and I like that spot. Michael Chandler, everyone's talking about how this man is coming out and just nuking people early in the fight. He's coming out and running through everybody. That's the way he fights. He is tough. He's explosive. He looks to get it done as quickly as possible. The man is not paid by the hour. And I am going to go ahead and say that Tony Ferguson has enough left in the tank to take that. A lot of people think Chandler's going to get Tony out of there and get him out of there super, super quickly. But if you go back and watch Tony's fights, the one thing he's ever been is durable. And people go back to like the Gaethje fight when he got stopped. And You guys got to remember, that was Justin Gaethje in a 5-round main event, and it was a mercy stoppage in the 5th. Tony is in no way shot. His durability is in no way gone. We have not seen Tony ever knocked out in the first round. Not once in his entire career. So, is he older? Yes. Is he the same guy? No. But we've never seen him finish like that before. Is Chandler a guy that can finish anybody in the first round? Yes. So don't get me wrong, it could still potentially happen. But I'm basically just banking on the fact that Tony is not quite as shot as the market is saying that he is, and he will get us over that 1.5 hump. I think if a finish happens, maybe it happens a little bit later. I think both these guys are desperate to get on the right track here and get a win. So because of that, we'll see a little bit more of a technical fight, a little bit more of a gamer fight. I wouldn't be shocked if this thing goes all 15 minutes. Next up, Carla Esparza taking on Rose Namajunas. Total set at 4.5, and this is a head scratcher here for me. Total is over 4.5 minus 170. Under 4.5 is plus 150. And I think if you're going with Rose, now obviously she could stick and move, jab, and win like a point striking type of decision, but more often than not, I think she finishes Carla if she's going to get the win. She's got that big power upside, the submission grappling, the head kick knockouts. You know, Carla doesn't have much for Rose on the feet, so if Rose is going to be in that position for the majority of the fight or even for big minutes of the fight, she probably gets some kind of a TKO. Carla Esparza, on the other hand, though, if she's winning this fight, she's grappling. She's grinding on Rose. And even though we saw Rose get, submitted their very first fight, that was a very young Rose. That's a long, long time ago. I don't expect Carla Esparza to get on Rose's back and tap her out that quickly, that easily this time around. And I really don't see Rose getting like crucifixed and TKO'd. I don't think that she's that weak or that inexperienced that she would let something like that happen to her, even going up against an opponent the caliber of Carla Esparza. So I think if it's Carla, it's over. If it's Rose, it's mostly under, but maybe there's a chance for that over. So since we got, the dual threat here, I will say over 4.5 at minus 170. I don't really like it. It's not a spot that I'm betting. I kind of think that Rose is going to KO her. I really do. But at the same time, like when you look at the evidence, this one probably goes deep. So not a total I want anything to have any part of whatsoever. Main event time, Charles Oliveira taking on Justin Gaethje. Total shockingly set at 1.5 for this one. Over 1.5 is minus 200. Chalked all the way up to minus 200 for this 1.5. Under 1.5 is plus 175. And with these two guys, like I talked about it, shout out to the guys over at Chronic Combat Conversations. I did a podcast with them the other night, and I talked about this fight potentially being an over spot because Justin Gaethje has shown his last couple fights, he takes his time longer. He's not, going for broke on that one shot, looking for the one big bomb anymore. Trevor Whitman has really done wonders with this guy, and he takes his time. He's not quite as aggressive, just ever so slightly reined in chaos, and that's when he's most dangerous. You look back at his fight with Chandler, and round 1 was a banger, but after that, he controlled the pace, and he didn't overload himself looking for that kill shot. He went a full 15 minutes controlling it and avoided a whole lot of damage. So I think this new version of Justin Gaethje is fully capable of taking this fight deep. Charles Oliveira, another guy that's not really known for fighting all that long, very offensively gifted, both on the ground and on the feet. I think that Justin's going to be on his bike because he talked about not giving up takedowns to Charlie O. And Oliveira, he doesn't do blast doubles. His takedowns are all like clinch takedowns up against the cage, body locks. Like that's how he drags you to the mat. So if Justin Gaethje is able to keep his distance, play on the outside, blitz in, get out, don't engage in those types of clinch positions, I think he can defend the takedowns of Charles Oliveira, which means we've got an extended striking match. Now, if new version Gaethje does what he does for a striking match, then I think there's a lot of opportunity for him to win some kind of a decision here. Obviously, he could leg kick him to death, and we could get a TKO in the second or the third round, something like that. But I think this fight goes a little bit longer than people are really expecting it to. So I'm going to say over 1.5 at minus 200. This is a spot where, again, I kind of talked about it. I've talked about this before on this show. Do the ladders. If you want to bring an extra shirt and sweat through every little bit of the shirt that you're wearing, bet the overs in this fight. Lay the wood on over 1.5. That first round is going to have you crapping your pants. The over 2.5 alternate total, I think it's plus 110. No one's expecting this thing to go over 2.5. Put a smaller bet on the over 2.5. If it gets over it, you're in the plus money territory. You're free rolling big time. Put a little sprinkle on the over 3.5, the over 4.5, the decision. Like, just tiny, smaller bets as you chip down on those overs. And the longer this fight goes, the sweatier it gets and the more fun it gets that you're cashing tickets that nobody saw coming. I think this fight probably gets to the championship rounds, if I'm being honest. I don't think that Charles Oliveira has the type of crushing pressure that Khabib has to be able to gas Justin Gaethje and leave him vulnerable. We saw Charles Oliveira in like the Tony Ferguson fight. It was one step ahead of you jiu-jitsu transitions with his top game wrestling. He wasn't really pressuring like we see a Dagestani mauler wrestler do. So I think Justin can potentially stay safe in some of these grappling positions, avoid the mat like hot lava, stay on his bike, lots of striking, and that'll probably lead us to a more sophisticated fight than people are expecting to get here. I kind of think there's some value on these overs. That's the total takedown, folks. Let me know in the comment section below what your favorite total is for UFC 274. Smash that like button for me. Sub here to Pub if you haven't. And give me a follow at Die Hard MMA Pod. We'll see you tomorrow for the Undefeated Post weigh-in show. And hey, we'll see you Saturday at UFC 274. That's right. I'm going. I will be at the Ainsworth for the early prelim cards. I'll be hanging out at the bar right across the street. We're giving away a set of tickets live, so if you're in Arizona, come to the Ainsworth, come hang out. I'll be meeting people, taking pictures, stuff like that. It'll be cool, to meet some people that watch the show, and hopefully I can hook one of you up with a set of tickets. So we will see you guys a lot. We'll see you a lot over the next couple of days. Let's roll.